Here's something that might sound backwards at first. Over the next few years, the people making the most money with AI probably won't be the ones creating the most stuff. They'll be the ones who get really good at deciding what to throw away. Sounds strange, right? But stick with me here, because this shift is already happening, and most people are looking in completely the wrong direction. So, let's talk about what's actually going on. Right now, we're in this weird transition period where AI tools can generate enormous amounts of content, code, designs, marketing copy, you name it. And naturally, everyone's first instinct is to use that to produce more blog posts, more videos, more products, more everything. But here's the thing most people miss. When everyone can produce more, production itself stops being the bottleneck. What becomes scarce is something else entirely. Judgment. The ability to look at 10 AI-generated options and know which one actually works. The skill of cutting what's mediocre and keeping what matters. If you find yourself thinking about where real opportunities might be heading, consider subscribing, because that's exactly what we explore here. Think about it like this. 20 years ago, a professional photographer's value was partly in their technical skill, knowing how to expose a shot correctly, understanding lighting, being able to operate complex equipment. Today, your phone handles most of that automatically. So what makes a great photographer valuable now? It's their eye, their taste, their ability to know which moment to capture and which angle tells the story. The technical barrier dropped, but the judgment barrier stayed exactly where it was. Maybe even got higher. The same pattern is playing out across dozens of fields right now, just accelerated by AI. And honestly, this is the part that surprises me. Most of the advice out there is still focused on learning how to prompt AI tools to generate things. That's useful, sure, but it's becoming table stakes. The real leverage is developing what I'd call an editor's mindset. Not editor like someone who fixes grammar, but editor like the person at a publishing house who reads 50 manuscripts and knows which 3 are worth betting on. Let me give you a concrete example that's already visible. There are people right now making solid income by doing AI quality control for businesses. A company uses AI to draft their customer emails, their product descriptions, their internal documents, but someone still needs to review that output, catch the subtle errors, adjust the tone, make sure it actually sounds like the brand. That role barely existed 2 years ago. Now it's a real job category, and it pays reasonably well, because it requires something AI genuinely struggles with: contextual judgment about what's appropriate for a specific situation. Now here's where the future gets interesting. Based on what companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google are publicly working toward, AI systems are going to get better at generating first drafts of almost everything over the next 2 to 3 years. The research papers, the job postings, the investor updates all point in this direction. But every expert I've read or listened to keeps coming back to the same limitation. These systems don't have stakes. They don't feel the consequences of being wrong. So while they can produce plausible output, they can't reliably distinguish between plausible and actually good. That gap is where human value concentrates. So, what does this mean practically if you're thinking about where to focus? Well, a few things. First, get comfortable being the person who says no. This sounds simple, but it's genuinely hard. When AI hands you something that's 80% good, the temptation is to ship it, because fixing that last 20% takes effort. But that last 20% is often the difference between forgettable and memorable. The skill of identifying that gap, knowing what good actually looks like in your field, that's not something you can automate away. Second, develop what I call vertical judgment. General taste is somewhat useful, but specific expertise in a niche is much more valuable. Someone who deeply understands, say, B2B software marketing can evaluate AI-generated marketing copy in ways a generalist never could. They notice when the messaging subtly misses the buyer's real concerns. They catch when the tone feels off for that particular industry. That specialized judgment layer is genuinely hard to replace. But there's a catch, and I want to be honest about this. Developing real judgment takes time. We're talking months or years of exposure to what good looks like in a specific domain. There's no shortcut here, no weekend course that gives you 20 years of pattern recognition. So if you're expecting to flip a switch and suddenly become the person everyone pays for curation and quality control, that's not realistic. This is about building something over time, not grabbing a quick opportunity. Think of it less like learning a new tool and more like developing a refined sense that comes from sustained attention. The other realistic challenge is that proving judgment is tricky. When you're selling production, you can point to output. I made this thing. Look at it. When you're selling judgment, you're essentially saying, trust me to know what's good. That requires either a track record, a portfolio of decisions that worked out, or some form of credibility in your field. Neither happens overnight. Now, where does this lead over the next few years? Based on current trajectories, here's one scenario I find pretty plausible. We're likely to see the emergence of what you might call judgment-as-a-service roles. Not formal job titles necessarily, but arrangements where individuals, or small firms, position themselves as the quality filter between AI generation and final output. Content strategists who don't write but decide what gets published. Design directors who don't push pixels but determine which AI mockups move forward. Code reviewers who don't build features but evaluate AI-generated code for security, maintainability, and actual fit with business needs. Some of these roles exist in embryonic form today, but the demand is growing quietly. Businesses are discovering that unlimited generation creates a new problem. Someone has to sort through it all. And the people who can do that sorting well, quickly, and with genuine expertise, they're becoming surprisingly valuable. I should mention that none of this is financial advice, obviously. We're talking about broad trends and possible directions, not guaranteed paths to income. Markets shift, new tools emerge that change the equation. Anyone who tells you they know exactly how this plays out is probably selling something. But here's what I keep coming back to. The fundamental scarcity is shifting. For decades, the bottleneck was production. Making stuff was hard, so people who could make stuff got paid. Now production is getting radically cheaper and faster for a huge range of outputs, which means the bottleneck moves upstream, to decisions, to taste, to knowing what's worth making in the first place. And that's not a skill AI is about to master. Not because the technology couldn't theoretically get there someday, but because judgment requires accountability. It requires caring about outcomes. It requires being wrong and learning from it. Those are human things, at least for the foreseeable future. So if you're thinking about building valuable skills in this environment, maybe the question isn't what can I learn to create with AI? Maybe it's what can I learn to evaluate that most people can't? What domain can I understand deeply enough that my opinion on what's good actually matters? That's a slower path, less flashy than learning the latest prompt tricks, but honestly, it might be the more durable one. If you found this perspective useful, subscribing helps, but more importantly, I'm curious what you think. Looking at your own work or field, what's the hardest thing to judge well? The thing where you know it when you see it, but explaining why is nearly impossible. Drop that in the comments, because I think that's exactly where the interesting opportunities are hiding.